We see you getting after your fitness goals. But what about those money goals? You can count on Credit Karma for a clear view of your finances and your progress, helping you see results so you can keep checking off those financial personal bests and find your way to money. Progress never felt so good. Download the Intuit Credit Karma app and start achieving your money goals today. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on.
Wish TV's Focus on Food is a commitment to improving food accessibility in the community. Hear from expert culinary contributors, health professionals, and people who are making a difference in the fight to eradicate hunger. Made possible by Indiana University Health.
Nutrition Month, and for many of us, we aren't only thinking about feeding ourselves, but about feeding our children as well. It's important that children not only get healthy meals at home, but also when they are at school. However, have you ever wondered what goes into school nutrition programs? Here to answer all of our questions is Ricardo Carrios. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Family and Community Health Sciences at Rutgers Cooperative Extension, specializing in food and social determinants of health. Thank you so much for being here, Ricardo. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cody. I appreciate being here myself. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. I'm a father of two daughters. I often wonder sometimes when they tell me what they had for lunch, how that came to be or why that was maybe the meal for that day. Can you explain the significance, though, of school nutrition programs and how they really are impacting the health of students?
Yes, of course. And I'm sure a lot of folks know already, but that number one thing is getting nutrients and good nutrition to students. So one of the number one importance about school nutrition programs is providing that solid meals throughout the day. Especially it helps with the academics. There's a lot of research that shows that children that aren't hungry could focus on schools, could focus on their academics. So of course, we can't do well in school if we're feeling hungry. And of course, with these programs, they take a lot of stress off families. So families that don't have to worry about, the extra funds they might have to think about if they're able and eligible for their school meals to be covered or reduced. And of course, we all live in such busy times that if we're not having to worry about prepping breakfast or lunch throughout the week, it really takes off a lot of stress.
Well, and the stress that it takes away from the student as well, right? Because we know that so many kids maybe aren't getting that meal at home in the evening or breakfast, and knowing that they're going to get at least something during lunch goes a long way in building that confidence and that ability to learn.
100% right there. And if you think about it, they could be getting 2/3 of their food for the day at schools. So for a lot of these children, and that's something that we might not always think about, right, with our classmates, what they might be thinking, but really relying on getting those 3 or 5 food groups, having those solid components in that meal. And especially there's so many guidelines around these school meals to ensure that they're getting their fruits and their vegetables. So like you said, coming to school and having to not having to stress about that and knowing they're getting a full meal.
Let's talk about how government entities like the USDA influence those school nutrition policies and programs.
Yeah, of course. So as some folks know, the Dietary Guidelines for Americans comes out every 5 years, and they list these standards or guidelines per se of what for the general American diet, healthy American diet, what they should look like. And usually that's using the My Plate, which you might see a little bit behind me. And some of those standards are ensuring like these school meals are following those My Plate guidelines. They're getting those different food groups like the fruits and vegetables. And some folks also might see stronger requirements on the type of sodium that's added or sugar. So for example, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, they can't serve canned fruit with sugary syrups or added sugars. It has to be 100% fruit. So those are some of those like stricter things. Or in that same program, it's a requirement to have 1% milk versus whole milk. So ensuring that that 1% has that lower saturated fat in it.
Last thing for me, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, but how important is it for us as parents or guardians to understand what they're getting in these school lunches and why they're maybe being served some of these things, and just being aware of that?
I think it is the number one thing of importance, especially since around food and eating, parents and caregivers are those role models. So really understanding why are they getting served certain foods, especially sometimes you hear children might not like certain foods. Well, why are they getting that type of food? What is the guideline? Especially if it's coming from the dietary guidelines, that's kind of that bigger picture level of knowledge. And especially with that role model type of mentality, we want our children to be happy at school, enjoying their school. So just working with the children, if there's new things on the menu, how can we experience that and see if they enjoy it? And again, working with your schools. And I would say the one last thing is that these school programs are super important for so many reasons, like food security, helping reduce barriers for families. So although sometimes it's so easy for us to comment on food and say we might not like certain things, we also need to advocate and share about the importance of having these programs. So aside from just getting involved locally, we want to share our stories of, the benefits of having food at school.
School is certainly about learning, and lunch was my favorite subject, and you should be learning there as well. So, Ricardo Carrios, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and all this information.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
This is the Wish TV Focus on Food podcast, made possible by Indiana University Health. Find more on the Focus on Food website by visiting wishtv.com/food and watch the ongoing coverage on Wish TV.